Before the rise of Europe's monarchs, long before marble palaces appeared along the Mediterranean, Africa had already known the rule of queens. From the deserts of Nubia to the rainforests of the Congo and the savannas of West Africa, women once governed vast territories, commanded armies, and negotiated with kings from distant lands. Their names were carved into temple walls, sung in oral tradition, and remembered in folklore that endured for thousands of years. Yet, for much of recent history, these stories were quieted, overlooked, forgotten, or dismissed by those who believed civilization's greatness began elsewhere. But their reigns reveal something profound: that political power, spiritual authority, and cultural sophistication were thriving in Africa centuries before the crowns of Europe glittered. This episode invites us to drift back through time, to the Nile Valley, the Ethiopian highlands, and the forests of Angola, to rediscover 5 women who shaped empires and redefined what leadership meant. Each queen's story unfolds slowly, like the unrolling of a papyrus scroll, revealing not only who they were, but what their rule tells us about the deep rhythms of African civilization. Across ancient Africa, power was often shared between the divine and the earthly. Kings ruled, yet queens frequently served as intermediaries between the living and the spiritual world, keepers of continuity and guardians of lineage. In Kush, women bore the title Kandake, rendered in Greek as Candace, signifying a royal mother who could reign in her own right. In the Horn of Africa, matrilineal descent preserved legitimacy, while in Central and West Africa, queen mothers guided succession and diplomacy. Archaeology, oral history, and early travelers' accounts together paint a picture of a continent where gender did not automatically limit authority. Power was understood as balance, between masculine and feminine, between sky and earth, between the wisdom of age and the strength of youth. As trade expanded along the Nile and the Indian Ocean, queens managed caravans and garrisons, forged alliances, and commissioned monuments whose ruins still shimmer beneath the desert light. They ruled when Europe still lingered in its own early kingdoms, and they left legacies that would later inspire resistance to colonial conquest. The 5 queens chosen for this journey span more than 2,000 years of history. They include Amanirenas of Nubia, who faced the legions of Rome; Makeda, remembered as the Queen of Sheba; Nzinga, warrior diplomat of Ndongo; and Matamba, Amina of Zazzau, the northern Nigerian conqueror; and Yaa Asantewaa, the Ashanti Queen Mother who led her people against the British. Together they illuminate an Africa defined not by passivity, but by vision and agency. Power, Amanirenas of Kush. Around 25 BCE in the Kingdom of Kush, modern-day Sudan, Queen Amanirenas ruled from the capital of Meroe. Her title, Kandake, denoted sovereignty. When Augustus Caesar extended Roman control southward from Egypt, Amanirenas refused submission. She organized armies that marched across the frontier at Syene, capturing Roman outposts and bringing back bronze heads of emperors as trophies. The Roman governor Petronius counter-invaded, seizing Napata and enslaving captives, yet the queen endured. After years of skirmish, she negotiated peace on equal terms, a rare outcome against Rome. The treaty exempted Kush from tribute and recognized its independence. It would last for generations. Her reign embodied the principle of balance: diplomacy when possible, force when required. Under her, Meroe's artisans cast fine iron, carved pyramids, and expanded trade deep into Africa's interior. Power, for Amanirenas, was not conquest for its own sake, but the defense of autonomy, a theme that would echo through centuries of African queenship. Second, wisdom, Makeda. the Queen of Sheba. Centuries earlier, another queen's legend stretched across continents. Makeda of Sheba, known from Ethiopian tradition and biblical text, ruled a wealthy kingdom centered near modern Aksum. Her caravans carried frankincense, myrrh, and gold along the Red Sea routes. Intrigued by tales of King Solomon's intellect, she journeyed to Jerusalem, a voyage of diplomacy and learning. While the biblical account casts her visit in symbolic light, Ethiopian chronicles, such as the Kebra Nagast, describe their meeting as a cultural exchange that linked two civilizations. From their union, legend says, came a son, Menelik Thorn's ancestor of Ethiopia's Solomonic dynasty. Whether entirely historical or partly mythic, Makeda's story mirrors an early truth that African polities engaged in far-reaching dialogue with the ancient world. Sheba's wealth and scholarship reveal a queen who viewed wisdom as the highest form of rule. Temples in Aksum and inscriptions in Sabaean script still whisper of that golden age, when intellect, not arms alone, defined authority. 3. Resistance. Nzinga Mbande of Ndongo and Matamba, 17 centuries later, on the western coast of Africa, another queen faced a foreign empire. This time, the Portuguese. Born 1583, Nzinga Mbande became ruler of Ndongo and Matamba in present-day Angola. When her brother's reign faltered under colonial pressure, she assumed power through political acumen and sheer presence. In 1622, she met the Portuguese governor at Luanda. When he refused her a chair, a symbolic gesture of subordination, Nzinga ordered an attendant to kneel, using the woman's back as a seat. She would not be humbled. Her decades-long struggle combined warfare with deft diplomacy, forming alliances with other African states and even negotiating with the Dutch to balance power. For nearly 40 years, she preserved independence through intelligence and endurance. Her story became legend among Angolan women, and later an emblem of anti-colonial resilience. Resistance, in Nzinga's world, was a form of dignity, and dignity a declaration of humanity. Or free faith. Amina of Zazzau far north, in the savannas of Hausaland, sometime in the 16th century, Amina of Zazzau, today's Zaria, reigned as warrior queen. Her exploits were chronicled in Hausa oral tradition and later written in the Kano Chronicle. Amina expanded her city's influence through a string of campaigns that reached as far as Kano and Nupe. She ordered defensive walls, known as Ganuar Amina, to protect her territories, many traces of which still mark the landscape. But beyond the sword, Amina's legacy was faith in structure and governance. She reorganized trade routes that connected Hausaland with the Niger Bend and the Sahara, enriching her people and encouraging Islam's spread across the region. Her rule exemplified order built upon trust, faith not only in religion, but in the discipline of administration. The legacy, Yaa Asantewaa, of the Ashanti Empire. The last queen of our journey lived in the twilight of the 19th century. Yaa Asantewaa, Queen Mother of Ejisu, witnessed the encroachment of the British on the Ashanti Empire in what is now Ghana. When her male chiefs hesitated to defend their sacred golden stool, symbol of Ashanti sovereignty, she rose before them and spoke. "If you, the men of Ashanti, will not go forward, then we, the women, will." In 1900, she led the Ashanti War of Independence. Though eventually captured and exiled, her leadership ignited unity across the kingdom. Her defiance became a cornerstone of Ghanaian national identity, and her name remains a rallying cry for courage. Legacy, for Yaa Asantewaa, was not survival alone. It was memory, the endurance of spirit beyond defeat. Through her, we see how queenship could evolve from sacred inheritance into open resistance adapting to the changing world of modern empire. Viewed together, these 5 reigns reveal that African leadership was neither peripheral nor derivative. Each queen governed within her society's political logic. Amanirenas within Kushite divine kingship, Makeda within Aksumite Sabaean commerce, and Nzinga within Central Africa's dynamic diplomacy. Amina within the Hausa confederations, and Yaa Asantewaa within matrilineal monarchy. Their power was contextual, rooted in local belief systems where female authority symbolized continuity and renewal. Modern historians now interpret these rulers not as anomalies, but as expressions of governance traditions that long predated European influence. Archaeological discoveries at Meroe, linguistic analyses of Hausa chronicles, and the preservation of oral epics in Ghana all support this broader understanding. These women demonstrate the diversity of African statecraft: warrior leadership when defense was vital, intellectual exchange when trade thrived, and spiritual legitimacy in times of transition. Their stories also caution against simplistic readings of African gender roles, reminding us that the balance of power was often more nuanced than later colonizers could imagine. The legacies of these queens continued long after their reigns ended. In Sudan, the Kandake became a symbol of national pride during independence. In Ethiopia, Makeda's lineage underpinned the Solomonic emperors who ruled until the 20th century. In Angola, Nzinga Mbande's name adorns monuments and schools, her likeness on currency, her memory invoked in movements for liberation. Amina's martial tradition enriched Hausa legend and still inspires leadership education among women. Yaa Asantewaa's defiance shaped modern Ghana's sense of sovereignty, honored annually in festivals and classrooms alike. Collectively, they illustrate that Africa's political imagination was vast, its leadership capable of adaptability, negotiation, and vision. Their reigns predate Europe's age of exploration, reminding us that global history is not a linear ascent from one continent outward, but an interwoven fabric of civilizations sharing the same human aspiration for order, dignity, and meaning. As we leave the echoes of their courts behind, the thrones of Meroe, the incense trails of Aksum, the fortresses of Zazzau, the council halls of Ejisu, the sound of their footsteps lingers in the dust. These were not legends born of fantasy, but women who walked the same earth, ruled real kingdoms, and left imprints history could never fully erase.